Alright, hello everyone, and thank you for tuning in once again to the Black Box Podcast. BBOR, Black Box Online Radio. Now, on this channel, we follow a lot of true crime cases and mysteries, but the sort of underlying theme is the presidential race. The secondary theme, anyway, for 2020, the presidency. The candidate that I've talked about the most in this term has been, Andrew Yang, the venture capitalist, from Schenectady, New York. I can't pronounce that word. I could never say that. I cannot pronounce his hometown to save my life. Sorry. But, when we were talking about issues, I was just listening to the Ezra Klein debate with Andrew Yang, and it wasn't quite a debate. It just seemed more like a friendly chit-chat conversation. And this is the candidate that I've covered the most on this channel, and I would just have to say that I really didn't really like the way that some things were going about it. Because, when you have a chance to interview somebody like Andrew Yang, someone whom I do admire, and this is definitely a sort of pro-Andrew Yang upload, pro-UBI upload, it's like, first they should have said flat out, the things we've talked about on this channel, should you be giving universal basic income in the form of cash, or should it be used in a voucher system, meaning that you can only spend it on certain items? Because, the biggest argument that I've heard against UBI is if you give people cash, they're just going to spend it on drugs. And Gary Brose, who was the candidate for the mayor of Seattle, said flat out, a lot of people were talking about giving the homeless housing, like, hey, here's a home that you can move into for free, like some sort of, makeshift temporary structure. Or like they had this in New York with Dome City. And he's like, they don't want it. People want to live on the streets so that they have more access to drugs, and that, you can shoot up under a bridge or light up under a bridge, and you don't really have any sort of grounded area that you'll be connected to. It's just people want to live that lifestyle, and, giving them things isn't going to work. Is UBI going to turn into drug money? And I wish that he would have just opened it with it like that. But they didn't really quite go there. There was more trying to say, like, do we do Andrew Yang's UBI plan, Universal Basic Income, or do you tax the rich? That's kind of seemed like what they were going at. But one of the big things that I heard about Andrew Yang, for the first time, he said that UBI completely eliminates food stamps. That's Andrew Yang's plan, to give every adult ages 18 to 64, $1,000 a month. That would bring food stamps down to zero. And if I understand, I think he also said something to the effect of WIC would go down to zero, women, infant, children. And it's like, if you're an adult and you get $1,000, that makes sense, right? I mean, there's no reason to be giving people food stamps. Another thing, though, that was not mentioned, with Ezra Klein and Andrew Yang was that the notion of senior citizens. And I remember John Linder talking about the fair tax rebate, which is a form of universal basic income. And they said flat out, the people that are going to get affected the most are senior citizens. And John Linder didn't even have an answer for that. He wanted the fair tax rebate, but it's like, he's just like, the group that's going to get affected the most are senior citizens, because they've already paid their income taxes. And if, you're going to do some other thing, like, no matter which way you tax to give people a universal basic income, they've paid their income tax once, and now they have to get another tax again. And they don't get the UBI. Anyone over the ages, 65 and onward, they would not get the universal basic income. So they would be the people that are slaughtered the most. And the only response that John Linder gave to that was just that you cannot choose a tax plan based on one demographic. You can't just say that people who are this one group might not benefit that much, so we can't do this tax plan. But one of the other things we need to note about this is, what about teenagers? Anyone who is under the age of 18, would be also maybe working a part-time job, or they would also be paying into the system, but they would not get it until age 18. But I don't think that's too big of a deal. That just means that you have to wait until you're 18 to get your $1,000. I mean, it's just, means like you're of working age, but you wouldn't get access to it until you're 18. I mean, I definitely think it is possible for what Andrew Yang talks about when he says, that this is something that is feasible. This is not sort of like an imaginary fantasy plan. We have the anarcho-capitalists and the anarcho-communists. Those things are just almost, to me it seems, that they're beyond belief. Like, there's no feasible way that you could ever implement that into any sort of actual legislation, or the lack thereof. You can't. The point I'm trying to say is they can't do it. It's not possible, or at the very least, it's completely impractical to our current climate. By climate, I mean the political climate. But something like Andrew Yang's UBI plan, I feel that he could implement this if we did have a President Yang, from 2020 to 2024. I would say that this could feasibly happen. But, I was just like, if you're going to be debating Andrew Yang, I would really wish that people would have brought up those things that I mentioned about the voucher program, or about the second thing that we just talked about now, senior citizens. Yeah, I really wish that they would have brought that up, because I think it's kind of impractical to talk about taxing the rich versus taxing, everyone. If you're going to put in some sort of national sales tax or something like that, I mean, I've said it on this channel before, I think the national sales tax is better, because, look at it this way. If you're an adult and you're getting $1,000 a month for 12 months a year, $12,000 a year, but, in $1,000 increments, no matter what, you're winning. You're winning. Whatever sort of national sales tax you're with, you're winning. But if you go berserk and, just blow all your money buying junk, and you go down to zero, I mean, you would have done that anyway. I mean, if you're going to go berserk and go on some shopaholic spending spree and go down to zero, you would have done that anyway. It's not because of Andrew Yang. And, it's just like, the point is, even if you spend a lot of your money paying a national sales tax, and you're just left with $100 at the end of the month, that's $100 more than you would have had. That's $100 more than you would have started out with. So you should say thank you, Andrew Yang, for $100, like that's left over that you can at least put in a savings account or something. Now, they were bringing up the whole notion that this is going to turn into sort of an incentive not to work. And I did an entire upload on that, the Andrew Yang candidacy, but so I don't have to go over that too much. But in reality, I would say that there is some of that, and let's not deny it. I mean, I told you that this is kind of a pro-Andrew Yang thing, but I don't think that I would spend more than 18 months to 2 years probably sitting on my ass before I was just like, holy crap, I need to do something, and actually done what Andrew Yang's talked about, and use your UBI as a way to help launch your career. And yes, there's going to be abuse to the system, but as Milton Friedman tells us, there's going to be abuse to all systems, no matter what. So it's just like, we can't really just entertain this notion that, hey, we can't have something because there's going to be abuse of the system. One of the things, though, that I did say that Ezra Klein I would say that he actually had one point when he's like, is it possible that Andrew Yang is coming at this sort of automation thing in an extreme fashion? Like, what he's sort of saying is that, we aren't going to be completely overridden by technology in 2 years. This is going to happen over maybe even decades. Andrew Yang makes it look like it's going to happen next year. Just next year, there are going to be no jobs, so we're all going to be starving unless we have UBI. And no, he doesn't say that out, but that's kind of like the undertone. That's kind of like the idea that's implied. So one of the big things about this is, this would be just something that we'd be able to adapt to gradually over time, and you wouldn't have to give people $1,000 a month. Humanity is just going to adapt to that stuff if it's done over the course of 10 years or 20 years or 30 years or 40 years. I mean, I definitely think a lot of people would benefit from this UBI plan that Andrew Yang has proposed. And I just really want more conversations about it, because I've said from the very beginning, from my very first upload on Andrew Yang's thing, that we also have the possibility, of giving people that voucher card, where they do get $1,000, but they can only spend it on food, clothing, shelter materials, education, and medicine. Those 5 categories. It's not my invention. That's from the Humanity Party, a new third party out there. And it's like, I'm 100% torn on what is the best thing to do. And I think a lot of people would be, because it's like, I did a whole upload on this called UBI, or drug money. But, I'd say that there are some very large reasons why people would be opposed to this. And a lot of the people, though, who are opposed to UBI are not opposed to Andrew Yang's kind of UBI. They're opposed to, the UBI that was put forth by people like Charles Murray or something. Or, I mentioned John Linder. Those guys were more like saying, we give people universal basic income, or at the very least, the fair tax rebate could be included in that. We give people a universal basic income, then we don't have to do anything else. Just that's all you get, no help with health care, no help with, any other programs. Basically, it's a way to cut the social safety net. But Andrew Yang's thing is just flat out, he's like, hey, I'm for Medicare for all. I want every person to have it. He was like, this is not a plan to just, skimp. This is a plan, if you're listening to this, you probably know what Andrew Yang's all about. He wants people who are going to lose their jobs because of automation to have a way to create businesses with this $1,000 a month. It's a way to envision a new business culture. It's a way that people are going to be adapting to change, and no human would ever go without the basic necessities, because as an adult, you could afford it. I mean, are 18 and 19 and 20-year-olds going to go buck wild and blow their $1,000 on junk food and pizza and alcohol? Maybe. But they do that stuff anyway, and at the very least, this would alleviate family incomes. I mean, and furthermore, we can't just live in fear, if that's the concluding note of this upload. We can't be afraid of doing things that can really alleviate poverty in America just because we're afraid of something that might not happen. Well, that's my little rant on Andrew Yang and his debate, if you want to call it that, with Ezra Klein. If you have anything to say at all, please leave a comment in the comment section below. And until next time.